In this next video, we'll talk about toddler development. Let's start by reviewing the learning objectives, which are to become familiar with the major physical, cognitive, and social landmarks of toddler development, and learn the definition and normal development of the following processes: theory of mind, symbolic play, pre-operational thinking, psychic equivalence, and rapprochement. We'll start by talking about physical development. The word toddler comes from toddle, moving with short and wobbly steps. This phase is characterized by greater ability to move and do things on our own. Babies are now able to stand, which provides a new and wider perspective of the world. They also achieve greater control of their hands and coordination. A 2-year-old, for example, can stack 3 blocks and use a spoon, fork, and cup effectively. We'll watch a short clip to demonstrate some of these abilities. Between 2 and 3, toddlers have sufficient control of their bladders and bowel muscles to be toilet trained. By age 3, toddlers can walk with ease, run, go upstairs, and pedal a tricycle. Now let's talk about the mind of toddlers. By age 2, the length and branching of neuronal circuits has reached nearly adult levels. Processing speed improves. Language and symbolic behavior emerge, as does self-awareness. For example, at about 2.5, toddlers can use the pronoun I correctly, demonstrating greater awareness of self and others. Toddlers' cognition is also characterized by interpreting experiences in concrete, egocentric, and magical ways. Let's watch a clip illustrating this.
Turn around. Oh, you're turning around? Good girl.
Ken. Look. Keep your eye on that. Keep your eye on that.
Say trick or treat.
Trick or treat.
Smell my feet.
This is a period filled with multiple sources of anxiety, including difficulty fully understanding situations, communicating, conflicts between self-assertion and approval, and bodily anxiety. So let's zoom in into each of the major cognitive changes that occur during this phase. We'll start with the concept of self. Between 18 and 24 months, toddlers begin to recognize themselves in a mirror. They start to develop a more realistic awareness of their vulnerability and smallness. Before age 2, self-representation becomes more frequent with use of words like me, mine, and I. Evidence of self-conscious emotions like shame and pride appear. At this age, toddlers show acts of self-assertion, willfulness, and opposition, like saying no frequently. These are signs of what is often described as the terrible twos. It can be frustrating for caregivers, but it is developmentally appropriate, meaning toddlers are beginning to create a mind of their own. Finally, between 2 and 3, a toddler's sense of self begins to include gender identity. This identity is based on concrete characteristics like hair or clothes, not genitals. It has been theorized that the greater recognition of body differences, and in particular genital differences, can lead to anxiety, imagining one is incomplete. Let's watch a couple of clips showing toddlers' characteristic self-assertion, oppositionality, and conflictual demeanor.
What's up, Sirius? You want to go have some lunch?
No.
You don't? You're not hungry?
No.
You want to go have some chicken nuggets?
No.
You want to go have an apple?
No.
You want to go have a muffin?
No.
Cheerios?
No.
Cookies?
No.
Ice cream?
No.
Candy?
No.
You want me to give you money?
Money.
Money? Okay.
Toilet training is an important step of self-development, so we'll mention some major points about this. It is a complex psychological and bodily task that requires communication, self-control, and the capacity to relinquish natural pleasures to achieve pride, self-esteem, and mastery. According to psychodynamic thought, some defense mechanisms commonly used to cope with this conflict are identification with the aggressor, in this case the parent or society at large, and reaction formation, in which impulses that are anxiety-provoking are coped with by exaggerating the directly opposing tendency. Like all defense mechanisms, they are unconscious and are used to cope with conflicting or seemingly unacceptable feelings. This period can also evoke strong reactions from the mother, like loss, now that her baby is growing, anger at being controlled, or disgust. In the toddler, it can evoke a sense of power and control over the parents and a desire for independence. We'll leave this topic aside and talk about play. 1 to 2-year-olds engage in sensory motor play, which is associated with exploring how things work. They also engage in parallel play, which means they can play alongside one another but not together. 16 months old begin to engage in pretend play, using toys symbolically, like a banana made to be a phone. Play becomes a vehicle to express feelings, practice skills, and assimilate reality. Symbolic play begins around age 2. We'll watch a clip of a girl engaging in this type of play. Notice she's using an object to represent a cell phone. Also, her speech has a narrative quality and conveys her perspective.
But if you say no, you don't. What did you say? Not bad words? No. Not funny.
Now we'll talk about language. Toddlers can understand about 50 words between 13 and 16 months, but only get to speak 50 words around 18 to 22 months. By 20 months, they start to combine 2 words. By age 2, the median speaking vocabulary advances to about 300 words. Around this age, they start to use names of feeling states like sad, good, mad, which allows them to organize and communicate subjective states. Let's watch a clip of a 2-year-old talking about feelings.
He's sad.
He's sad? Oh no. Why is he sad?
He flew off.
Oh goodness.
He flew off.
Oh no. Did he fall in the water?
Yeah.
He's okay though. Look, he's waking up. See? Say, get up, dinosaur.
Yeah, dinosaur.
Between 2.5 and 3 years of age, toddlers can develop more complex sentence structures involving subject, verb, predicate, like, I don't know where the dog went. By age 3, the child has a large vocabulary and command of present, past, and future tense. Now we'll talk about toddlers' thinking styles. Jean Piaget, a Swiss psychologist, described this stage as pre-operational thinking. This means toddlers cannot perform mental operations using logic or transforming or combining separate ideas. This style of thought is concrete, centralized, focused on one thing at a time, and egocentric. Let's watch a clip illustrating this.
So I'm going to make 2 rows of quarters. Okay, does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more quarters, or are they the same?
The same.
The same? Okay, now watch. Now, Does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more quarters, or are they the same?
That one has more quarters.
That one has more quarters?
Yeah.
Why does that one have more quarters?
Because it's stretched out.
Because it's
Toddler's thought is also characterized by what is known as psychic equivalence, meaning there are no clear boundaries or distinctions between what is felt inside and the outside reality. This makes wishes, fears, and fantasies even more consequential, and toddlers' feelings can paint a frightening, exaggerated version of reality. By their second year, toddlers gradually internalize societal standards. Motivation for doing the right thing comes largely from wish of approval or to avoid punishing. Finally, we'll move on to discuss toddlers' social development. After age 1, new behaviors imply a growing awareness that others have their own thoughts and intentions. This is the beginning of having a theory of mind, which is the ability to attribute mental states like beliefs, intents, desires, emotions, and knowledge to others, and understand that those can be different from our own. Let's watch a clip illustrating this.
Check it out.
No.
Azalea, are you supposed to color on the wall? Azalea, did you write on the floor with the marker?
No.
Who did that?
No.
Did you do it? Did you do it?
No.
You didn't do it?
Toddlers have a dual orientation, which can be seen as a dilemma: how to maintain attachment and safety and at the same time explore the world and develop a sense of autonomy. This dilemma can lead to contradictory gestures and feelings, at times demanding and at others rejecting maternal contact. It can also lead to increased separation anxiety, reverting to earlier habits of protesting the mother's absence. At this age, a toddler's ability to regulate their affect and behavior continues to depend largely on paternal responsiveness and regulation. Caregivers also help to explain and clarify situations, set limits, and continue to offer a secure base. They often switch between going out to explore the world and coming back to their caregiver for emotional support, which is called rapprochement. Transitional objects that can be blankets, teddy bears, dolls, can become a means to symbolize the attachment relationship to better cope with a growing sense of separateness. Caregivers provide a model for behavior, also provide a scaffolding for the development of language and narrative by communicating and interpreting toddlers. This way they help them regulate feelings by putting situations and emotions into words. During this age, toddlers learn to share and participate in reciprocal interactions. They can now begin to play with others, control their impulses, and learn about societal roles and rituals. So this is the end of the toddler video. Don't forget to take the post test, and in the next video, we'll talk about preschoolers.